Ashton Kutcher defended Danny Masterson, and he might have ended his own career in the process because now he's facing his own accusations as well.
When you think of Ashton Kutcher, you might picture the goofy guy from that '70s show or the charming heartthrob from No Strings Attached. But beneath the polished image lies a web of controversies that Ashton has miraculously escaped unscathed. How has he managed to maintain his nice guy reputation despite questionable decisions that should have left a permanent stain on his career?
Now today I want to talk about Ashton Kutcher, the one man I've never had a good feeling about, and he somehow makes it out of every single huge controversy.
Let's start with the most recent storm. Kutcher, once hailed as a Hollywood advocate for justice through his anti-ST organization Thorn, shocked the world when he openly supported convicted artist and former co-star Danny Masterson. While the court found Masterson guilty of heinous crimes, Ashton penned a letter asking for leniency in his sentencing, portraying Masterson as a role model and completely dismissing the voices of survivors. Now here's where it gets even murkier. While Ashton resigned from Thorn amid public outrage, his connections to powerful Hollywood players and institutions kept his image relatively intact. Why? Because Ashton has mastered the art of staying just above the scandal, letting others take the fall while he walks away unscathed.
Ashley Ellerin was a woman Ashton Kutcher was dating in 2001 who was murdered by the Hollywood Ripper. The night she was murdered, Ashton Kutcher did go to her house to pick her up for a date, saying the lights were on and he saw red stuff on the floor he thought was a wine stain but thought she was just angry at him.
This leads us to the bigger question. What motivates someone to project themselves as a champion of justice while simultaneously supporting A's? Could it be Ashton's way of deflecting attention from his own questionable rise to fame? His trajectory from that '70s show to Hollywood stardom wasn't just about talent. It was about navigating a system rife with exploitation, where loyalty to certain people or practices might have played a bigger role than we realize. The stakes here couldn't be higher. If Ashton's pattern of turning a blind eye continues, it's not just about his reputation. It's about what kind of behavior Hollywood is willing to protect, overlook, and normalize. As we pull back the curtain on Ashton Kutcher's rise, one thing becomes clear. The nice guy facade might just be the creepiest act of all.
Now today I want to talk about Ashton Kutcher, the one man I've never had a good feeling about, and he somehow makes it out of every single huge controversy.
Ashton Kutcher has been gliding through Hollywood's radar with a charm that seems almost untouchable. But what if this seemingly carefree ascent is more calculated than we ever imagined? You see, Ashton isn't just the goofy guy next door or the quirky star of that '70s show. His career has been peppered with controversies, ones as serious as M and involvement in sting operations. Yet every time the storm clouds gather, Ashton finds a way to emerge spotless. It all came to a boiling point when people started noticing a disturbing pattern. Ashton's close ties to questionable figures and his uncanny ability to sidestep the fallout. From supporting convicted artist Danny Masterson to maintaining cozy connections with Sean Combs amid mounting scandals, Ashton's associations have sparked questions about what's really fueling his Hollywood trajectory. An insider spilled the beans on Ashton's approach to fame. Ashton needs to pick his friends better. The spotlight has turned on him for reveling in his relationships with a couple of Hollywood's most notorious stars. He's going to have a tough time salvaging his career after this Diddy mess. In addition to that, Ashton has been separating himself from the Diddy fallout, even though they've been hanging out for the last 19 to 20 years. Regardless of Ashton's long history with him, he has separated himself from Diddy since Cassie's lawsuit, and even more so in the wake of the new ones. Mila will not let Ashton be in any sort of contact. He is expecting a subpoena, as they have been friends for 2 decades. As we dig deeper, you'll see why Ashton's nice guy image might just be one of the most calculated facades in Hollywood history. Buckle up, this story is about to get unsettling. Before Ashton Kutcher became a household name, he was entangled in a chilling real-life mystery that many have conveniently forgotten. It's a story that starts with the tragic end of Ashley Ellerin, a 22-year-old fashion design student, and the events of one fateful night in 2001. Ashley and Ashton were casual acquaintances who shared mutual friends, but the two had started to grow closer. Both were newly single and planning to go out together that night, a date that would never happen. The last time Ashton heard from Ashley was around 8:24 p.m. She had just stepped out of the shower and told him she was getting ready. Little did either of them know, those words would mark their final conversation.
And this has put a lot of eyes on him, which has led to fans asking questions. And now some of his dark moments from his past are being brought to light.
When Ashton finally arrived at Ashley's Hollywood home later that evening, he was running behind schedule. He knocked on the door but got no answer. Peering through the window, he noticed what he assumed were wine stains on the floor. Thinking she had gone out without him, he left, unaware of the horrifying truth. In his testimony, he said, "I knocked on the door, and there was no answer. I knocked again, and once again, no answer. At this point, I pretty well assumed that she had left for the night, and that I was late and she was upset. I remember the next day after I heard about what happened, I went to the detectives and said, 'My fingerprints are on the door.'" Behind that closed door, Ashley had already met her end. A neighbor later testified to hearing 2 screams from her home around 8:30 p.m., just minutes after Ashton's call. Her apartment manager, who had reportedly been involved with Ashley, became another name in the web of suspicion. But Ashton? His involvement went beyond being a witness. With his timeline and testimony so close to the crime, many began to wonder if the rising star was more than just an innocent bystander. Kutcher testified in court years later, recounting those haunting details. But despite being a key witness, and for a brief moment, a person of interest, the dark cloud over his name seemed to dissipate as quickly as it had appeared. Why? Because Ashton Kutcher was no one at the time, and people came out of the woodworks after Danny Masterson's case blew up.
Chrissy Bixler came out saying that story wasn't true, where he actually called up Danny Masterson aware she was murdered, and Danny Masterson convinced him not to call the police.
But at that time, no one wanted to mess with the Hollywood hotshot. With the power of careful image crafting and deep industry connections, Ashton managed to reframe his narrative, swiftly returning to the limelight with his charm intact. Hollywood insiders quietly murmured about the scandal, but the public's attention was steered elsewhere. Anyway, Chrissy tried her best to shed light on Ashton's unsettling pothole story via social media.
I should know your secrets your role model keeps for you, ones that would end you. Did you forget I was there? You were on speakerphone the night you called Danny on February 21st, 2001. I heard everything. I heard the plan. In my opinion, you're just as sick as your mentor. Now, yes, he was in his car for over an hour outside of Ashley's house, speaking with his manager about what to do to protect Ashton's career and reputation. He then called Danny. I heard the entire conversation. Law enforcement was and is aware that what I'm saying is true.
But guess what? The same person who advised Kutcher not to call police that fateful night was the person who indirectly destroyed his career. Ashton Kutcher has built an image as Hollywood's charming everyman, easily balancing humor and intelligence while climbing the industry ranks. Yet beneath this polished exterior lies a string of questionable decisions and associations, raising eyebrows about his role in Hollywood's darker narratives. One of the most striking moments in recent memory involves Kutcher's public support for his former That 70s Show co-star Danny Masterson, now a convicted aurist, serving 30 years to life. As Masterson faced allegations of heinous crimes against 3 women during the early 2000s, a time when Kutcher and Mila Kunis worked closely with him, Kutcher wrote a character reference describing Masterson as a role model and extraordinarily honest. In his letter, Kutcher vouched for Masterson's trustworthiness, even stating, "He's among the few people that I would trust to be alone with my son and daughter." It's a jaw-dropping sentiment considering Masterson's already been accused of misconduct as far back as 2017. Kunis, too, provided a glowing reference praising Masterson's exceptional character and positive influence. He said, "Over our 25-year relationship, I don't ever recall him lying to me. He's taught me about being direct and confronting issues in life and relationships head-on, resolving them, and moving forward. Danny is a person that is consistently there for you when you need him. While I'm aware that the judgment has been cast as guilty on 2 counts of R by force, and the victims have a great desire for justice, I hope that my testament to his character is taken into consideration in sentencing. I do not believe he is an ongoing harm to society, and having his daughter raised without a present father would be a tertiary injustice in and of itself." Critics were quick to point out the unsettling nature of these letters, especially given the gravity of the charges against Masterson. The public backlash was swift and fierce, leaving many questioning why Kutcher and Kunis, who are vocal advocates for various social causes, would risk their credibility by defending a man found guilty of such violent crimes. Even more disturbing is Kutcher's long-standing friendship with Masterson, which extended beyond That 70s Show. The pair reunited for Netflix's The Ranch, where Masterson's role was eventually written out following the 2017 allegations. Despite this, Kutcher maintained his loyalty, breaking his silence in 2023 to express hope that Masterson would be found innocent. The fallout has been severe, with Kutcher's moral compass being called into question. How does one reconcile being an advocate for justice while publicly supporting a convicted aurist? The move seems calculated, a bid to preserve an old friendship at the expense of victims' voices. Well, very conveniently, he started to use the familial pressure to back out from his support after Danny was convicted. A couple of months ago, Danny's family reached out to us and they asked us to write character letters to represent the person that we knew for 25 years so that the judge could take that into full consideration relative to the sentencing. They were intended for the judge to read and not to undermine the testimony of the victims or re-traumatize them in any way. We would never want to do that, and we're sorry if that has taken place. This is not the first time Kutcher has danced around controversy unscathed. His ability to navigate scandals, whether as a witness in Ashley Ellerin's case or as a staunch supporter of industry peers with tainted reputations, it paints the picture of a man whose connections and charm have kept him afloat. Hollywood thrives on its glitz and glamour, but beneath the surface lies a web of intrigue and unanswered questions. Among the most haunting are the eerie similarities between the tragic deaths of Kim Porter, Diddy's longtime partner, and Brittany Murphy, Ashton Kutcher's former girlfriend. Both women passed away under mysterious circumstances officially linked to pneumonia, yet steeped in speculation and whispers of something far darker. The connections don't end with the cause of death. Recent revelations have reignited questions about whether the ties between Diddy and Ashton Kutcher go beyond Hollywood's usual shared circles. Autopsy discrepancies, peculiar behaviors, and cryptic industry rumors suggest there might be more to the stories of these two women than the public has been told. Kim Porter, who Diddy once called his soulmate and the mother of his children, was found unresponsive in her Los Angeles home in 2018. Officially, her death was ruled as due to lobar pneumonia, but for those close to her, the explanation felt far too simple. Nearly a decade earlier, Brittany Murphy's untimely death sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Her autopsy cited pneumonia, anemia, and substance intoxication. Yet questions lingered about how a seemingly healthy young star could succumb so suddenly. What binds these two tragedies isn't just their similarities in cause of death, but the cloud of controversy that followed. For Kim Porter, suspicions of foul play loomed large, fueled by Diddy's immense influence and complex history.
It should have been a proper investigation so all the family members can feel like there was no foul play in her death.
In the 2 weeks before Brittany Murphy's untimely death, an unsettling shadow loomed over her life. She was desperately ill, battling flu-like symptoms that left her weak and drained. But rather than seeking urgent medical attention, her condition was brushed off as something minor, just another bad case of laryngitis, according to her husband, Simon Monjack. It wasn't. Behind the closed doors of her Hollywood Hills mansion, Brittany's illness silently progressed. What started as flu-like symptoms spiraled into something far more sinister. By the time she passed, her pneumonia had become severe, according to Dr. Lisa Sheinin, the deputy medical examiner who performed her autopsy. The HBO docuseries, What Happened? Brittany Murphy, revealed the chilling truth. She had likely been walking around with this for some time. If she had gotten to a hospital early enough, you can detect pneumonia on a chest x-ray, Dr. Sheinin shared. It's very easy to do. Treatment could have started, and she would have had a chance. Brittany Murphy's radiant career was overshadowed by a tragic decline that no one seemed prepared to stop. Her final days were marked by a preventable downward spiral, a life quietly slipping away as her body succumbed to treatable ailments that were ignored. The haunting details of her autopsy revealed a grim picture. Brittany was severely anemic, with hemoglobin levels at an alarmingly low 3.0, far below the healthy range of 12 to 15.5. Medical experts agree this was a dire, life-threatening condition. If she had had this test, let's say a week or two before dying, and she had a result like this, any decent doctor would have had her in the ER hooked up to a transfusion as quickly as they possibly could. One medical professional explained, but that chance never came. Adding to the heartbreak, Brittany's system contained traces of multiple prescriptions and over-the-counter medications, used in a desperate attempt to manage her symptoms. Though no illegal substances or alcohol were detected, these medications may have contributed to the tragic outcome. The anemia alone could have been fatal, shared Dr. Sheinin. The pneumonia was fatal. Together they became an unstoppable force. And then, adding the medications, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. Even more unsettling was the reliance on herbal remedies, a decision Simon Monjack, Brittany's husband, once claimed was meant to be holistic, but proved devastatingly ineffective. These so-called remedies were no match for the ticking time bomb within Britney's body. Every missed opportunity to intervene, a test not done, a hospital visit avoided, only amplifies the mystery surrounding Britney's death. What could have been done, and why wasn't it? These questions linger, casting a long shadow over Hollywood's tragic loss. Not only that, Julia Davis, one of the family friends, claimed that Britney's death was overall very unsettling. From the very beginning, AJ always believed that there was something very odd about Britney's passing. And then, reviewing autopsy reports, we could see that there were multiple symptoms that would usually go with poisoning, and then the test results confirmed that, where the lab found the 10 heavy metals in very high quantities. So we do believe that it was poisoning, and we would like to have it properly investigated. At this point, it is pretty clear that Ashton's rise to fame is riddled with more tragedies than accolades. But surprisingly, no one has the guts to talk about it. It is important to note that even when Diddy's mess came to light with all that media coverage, no one even questioned Ashton's involvement in any official capacity. We can only hope that time will unveil Ashton's evil deed.